So I'd like to talk about a stock that I currently hold no shares in anymore. However, I am looking to get back into this company. The company is called Unity, which trades under the ticker U. So while I'm not a financial advisor, and I'm definitely not someone who you should be taking financial advice from, I am someone who has a background in software engineering. And being that Unity is primarily known as a game engine, I'd like to provide you guys with some of my own personal insights into this company as someone who actively programs as a full-time job. And I'm also a huge Lord of the Rings fan. So when I heard that Unity was acquiring Weta Digital, which is a company responsible for all of Lord of the Rings' incredible CGI, I had to check it out. So I'll get into Unity's recent acquisition of Weta Digital. Then I'd like to dive into Unity's biggest competitor and what you need to be aware of. Next, I'll be discussing Unity's big metaverse opportunity. And finally, I'll be giving my thoughts on if Unity stock is a buy right now, or if you should wait. So if you're someone who's interested in Unity as a potential investment, this is a video for you. So Unity recently acquired Peter Jackson's Weta Digital for $1.6 billion. And for those of you who haven't seen all of Lord of the Rings behind the scenes, Weta Workshop is a New Zealand-based company that the director Peter Jackson helped build from the ground up, which comprised a huge team of extremely talented people who all worked on the visual effects and all of the physical props in the Lord of the Rings movies. However, with this recent deal, Unity acquired only the digital division of Weta, which means that Unity is getting access to all of the teams and software that were used to make the incredible visual effects behind Lord of the Rings and a ton of other movies like Avatar and Prometheus, to name a few. And I think this entire deal is going to help carve out a path for Unity moving forward, because one of the biggest criticisms I've seen with Unity when compared to their competitor Epic Games, who makes the Unreal Engine, is that Unity hasn't been able to innovate as quickly, leading to the Unreal Engine being arguably the better choice in terms of pure graphical fidelity. However, when looking at the difference between Unity and Unreal Engine, I think it would be unfair to just say, okay, the Unreal Engine has a higher polygon count and is capable of rendering more realistic environments, which therefore means that the Unreal Engine is the better choice. So while it is true that the Unreal Engine can render higher polygon counts than Unity, I'd like to get into why Unity is still a great investment, and why the graphical fidelity of Unity might be changing pretty soon. So you have to realize that each game engine serves its own purpose. The game engine Godot is probably the most beginner-friendly engine, and is probably your best bet if you're new to video game development and want to make a 2D game. Unreal Engine is great if you're already an experienced developer who has knowledge of one of the most complicated programming languages to learn, C++, and wants to create the highest graphical fidelity game possible. And then we have Unity. I think Unity is in an incredibly interesting position between all of their competition, because graphically it sits higher than Godot, but not as high as Unreal. Now, with that being said, you might wonder why someone might choose Unity over Unreal. And if you're a developer, I can probably tell you that the number one reason someone would choose Unity is for the programming language. Unity uses a language called C#, which is not only a newer language than Unreal's C++, but it is also arguably far easier to learn, is widely taught in educational systems, and is also growing in popularity faster than C++. You can kind of think of C++ as a dying programming language, and I think C# is eventually going to overtake it as being one of the most popular languages to build video games on. And while Unreal does offer its own visual scripting called Blueprints, which allows for people to create games without having to write code by connecting nodes with conditional logic together, there's just no getting around that Unreal still has a much steeper learning curve than Unity. And to this point, Unity also serves as a visual scripting framework for people who don't want to code. However, in my opinion, I feel like Unity's framework provides a much more forgiving experience and will therefore be much more appealing to indie game developers. And look, when it comes to video game development, really experienced programmers will still be using C++ to code AAA games, However, when it comes to the accessibility and ease of use, the C# programming language blows C++ out of the water, to the point where if someone told me that they were interested in being a video game developer and had no prior knowledge of any programming language, I would 100% of the time tell them to learn C# so that they could build out projects in Unity, as the learning curve will be much more approachable. However, where things really start to get interesting is when you realize that Unity offers more than just a video game engine. Unity is of course going to be dipping their toes into the metaverse, and I would argue that with their acquisition of Weta Digital, they'll be better positioned to capture even more revenue streams for both building the digital infrastructure of the metaverse and participating in the NFT economy. And according to some financial estimates, Weta is expected to add $70 million of revenue in 2022 for Unity. And I get that this is just an estimate, but you have to understand, the idea behind the acquisition is to expand Unity's addressable market to not just the video game market, but to the film industry and beyond, to see where this whole thing goes. And this, I think, is how Unity will close the technology gap with Epic's Unreal Engine, as Weta's core business is creating hyper-detailed visual effects in films. Weta's tools could even help Unity expand beyond its position in gaming and target new verticals like NFTs, film production, CAD, also known as computer-aided design, as well as e-commerce. And not only that, but the integration of Weta into Unity's platform will give game developers access to Weta's art assets, creating even more streams of revenue for the company. And after the acquisition of Weta, Unity seems pretty well positioned to capture new revenue streams in the metaverse, like the digital infrastructure and the NFTs that I mentioned earlier. Unity's core offering is its game engine though, which offers a kind of architecture where developers can assemble and build on top of to create any kind of digital landscape that they desire. And similarly, Weta Digital offers tools to build digital infrastructure for films using visual effects technology. So by combining Unity's engine and Weta's visual effects technology, Unity now has the technology stack to create hyper-realistic digital environments for the metaverse. And once Unity integrates with Weta, I think we can expect Weta's visual effects tools and art library to be available to Unity content creators, who could then leverage these combined capabilities to craft digital assets that could be tokenized and sold as NFTs. And while this is still somewhat speculative, you have to understand that both the technology and market already exists for these kinds of things. Now, with that in mind, there are still some important risks that you need to be aware of with Unity stock. While the vision for the whole metaverse thing is exciting, we're still in the very early days of its evolution. The addressable market for the metaverse is still being defined, and business models are still being tested. And this unfortunately leads to little visibility for individual companies trying to establish a position in this industry. And while Unity does look like it's well positioned for the rise of the metaverse, this is definitely a stock that trades at a nosebleed valuation. And in addition, the company isn't expected to be extremely profitable in the near or medium term. Thus, as per usual, and like basically all stocks that I talk about on my channel, this is a stock appropriate for investors with a high risk tolerance. So overall, if you're wondering if I'm going to be buying any shares in Unity, here's my plan. Since the stock is already near all-time highs, I could definitely see this stock falling more in the short term. And listen, I'm not some financial warlock, so please don't listen to me, but personally, I'm going to be eyeing this stock at around the $120 price range. And then from there, I think it might be interesting to start a position in this company and see where it goes. Unity is continuing to grow alongside their revenue, and I think with this recent acquisition of Weta, they're finally stepping up to the plate to give Unreal Engine some real competition. And I think I'd like to end the video here. Thanks as always, everyone, and I'll catch you next time.